What is the impetus for driving your business forward? Is it that sense, that feeling, that urgency of I need to make this work? Or is it a much deeper impetus that says, this is mine, how can I make it work? So there's two very different energies to that. One is a pushing, driving energy, and the other is an allowing energy. Yes, so they are masculine and feminine principally. And the reason this is important is because when we are in a push mentality and a push energy, we are cutting ourselves off from the creative spark of our businesses, because our businesses are an expression of self. They are an expression of purpose. They are a particular interpretation of what is ours to bring to the bigger picture. And if we are driving it forward with an attitude of, I need to be getting results, I need to be doing this. And yes, I know we all need to get those results. But if that's where the impetus and the urgency is coming from, it is actually cutting off the creative source of where your business is going to. And that's why so many people get completely stuck and plateau, is because there is that, well, there are a number of reasons, but that actually cuts you off from the creative impetus of what is yours to bring forward. And what's yours to bring forward is completely different to what anybody else is going to bring forward. It cannot be replicated. It is your bit. And in order to access your bit, you really need to be listening to yourself. That's the only place the path can come from, is from within. It's like that way. So we have to resource our inner landscape in order to create our outer landscape. That impetus has to flow through a masculine energy in order to become. It can't, if it stays purely in a creative state, it is not created. We need our masculine energy to create. So there is a rhythm, there is an inherent rhythm in that process of allowing and acting, receiving, and then moving into a creative process. We receive creativity, we are inherently creative. We see and we feel and we sense what we need to create, then we need to move into action to do it. Now, obviously, that takes a great deal of trust and openness to being able to hear and sense and feel what is coming from within in order to move into a state of creative action from it. But that is exactly how we're designed as human beings. Really, we are designed to work in that way, and yet we've got ourselves through the way that the business has been created. We have got ourselves into a state where we feel the need to push through the natural rhythms that we do sense. So when we try to push through a natural rhythm, then what we end up doing, that's when it becomes a real struggle. It becomes really hard. Then we feel like we are bashing our heads against a wall trying to make progress, because what we are seeking to achieve is not either we're trying to do things which is not where we are at energetically, or we're trying to do things that are not where the outside environment is at energetically. And we all respond to the environment around us. We know this in so many different ways, but in a business sense, we are responding to the context in which we are operating. We're responding to the energies that are around us all the time, and there is a natural rhythm to those energies. And when we allow ourselves to sense what that is and come into a response to that energy, then things are just go better. It's just easier to move forward. because that's what the energy wants us to do. But we have become so conditioned to, right, I need to do this, 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 this. And it becomes this immensely long list of things that we have to do. And we have to do them now, even though the time is not necessarily right for them, energetically speaking. But we are conditioned to think that we have to do it now. So this process of coming into the natural rhythms, it's something that, you know, it's a remembering. It's not easy necessarily to just park all of that programming and all that conditioning that we've had since, you know, we were born, but we can begin to sense where the energy is going, and how we need to respond to it. So we can fall forward into the energy, if you like, and we can allow ourselves to go with the flow if we allow ourselves to sense it, and then really tap into that inner wisdom to work out how do we then respond to what's coming at us. Because when the energy around us is changing, it's creating an opportunity for us to respond, and it's in our response that we create a particular energetic signature that is ours. And coming back to the fact that you've got your bit, your business is your bit, it's an expression of self, then that response is your response to the energy, and your response is needed. But you can't respond from a place of a center of self unless you are listening and listening to how you are responding internally, so that you know how you can respond externally. So this falling into the flow, if you like, falling forward into that energy, it's not as complicated as it sounds, because we are naturally cyclical. So coming back to this masculine and feminine thing, we need times when we are in a state of creativity, and that is, there's an inner creativity, there's an outer expression of that creativity. So there's a time when we are allowing ourselves to explore things, allowing ourselves to sit with things, allowing ourselves just to be, in order to allow what needs to come forward to come forward. But when it does come forward, that's when we need to respond. And I have found that there is a natural rhythmic rhythm to every day. Well, it's a natural rhythm to every day. There's a natural rhythm to every week. There's a natural rhythm to the months. And which is why I do my quarterly sort of planning work with my clients, is to say, this is what the energy is coming forward with. So, for example, in this upcoming quarter, in the run up to the end of 2019, it is the consolidation of all the work that's been happening. And it is the rise of the self, and the rise of the self, of coming into a very strong position, a centered place, is important, because next year is all about foundation building. It is about setting the next level, but it's diligent. We've had this place of receiving, and that will continue. But we have this strong place of receiving, and now next year is really going to be focused on putting the foundations in place and doing the work. So it's going to be requiring our feminine to talk to our masculine. So there's lots that we can work with, but so we need to feel into that rhythm. Now, what I wanted to talk about was actually what that rhythm looks like and what that rhythm feels like, because I obviously perceive it and work with it within the context of the elements. So the natural cycle of the elemental flow is earth to air to fire to water. And when I look into what that energy is coming through with, then I actually get, you know, how long is it going to stay in? And I do actually physically do this movement. How long is it going to stay? What is the intonation of that energy when it's staying, of where it will be? So it's like, how long are we in the earth energy, and how long do we need to be still, or how long do we need to do some very rhythmical, repetitive, structural tasks? Because I won't go into too much detail about this here, but you know, all the elements have a masculine and a feminine, masculine and a feminine aspect to them. So earth has both this very quiet, still energy to it, but it also has a foundation building energy to it. So, for example, how long do we stay in there? And then as it transitions from earth to air, gives it a different intonation again. So it's like, how long does it stay? How much is it moving around, and what does that feel and sense like in terms of a rhythm for the period of the energy for the period? And that's when you can sort of feel into, yeah, we need to tap into this particular elemental energy in a particular way in order to respond. So to give you very tangible examples, at the beginning of this year, I planned out a series of these masterclasses every single month, and I set the content, the broad context of the content in December of 2018, and I set it for the entire year, and I have stuck to it because it went with my reading of the energy of the year. And it's fitted all the way through. So there was a point in spring when it was very much focused on practical stuff. So my content was focused entirely on practical solutions. Then it shifted into much more of an outward expression. So it became that the content became slightly looser and more conceptual. And as we're moving into this last quarter, this last quarter of the year is very much about a consolidation. So that it's almost like again, my content has shifted in order to respond to that. So it's a very practical application. And what it means is that when you can fall forward into that, it means you are bringing forward the things that you need to bring forward when they are going to work the best. And that includes your programs. And so if you're thinking about running services, you can think, well, when do I need to be working on them and in them? When do I need to be working on launching them? When do I need to actually be delivering them? And you can sense when because every program, every service has its own signature, energetic signature. It's how does that signature fit best within that rhythm? So there's lots of practical applications for that. Thank you, dog, for shaking. So if you can fall forward into that, then it makes life a lot easier and brings forward a much more creative response. Now, this is important. The creative response is important because as we move into really understanding that we have a unique part to play, our business has a unique role to play in the collective context, then we need to start innovating more. We need to access our creativity in a different way to respond in unique ways, because we cannot continue responding with sort of like these blanket approaches. It's like multiple franchises or whatever, of doing exactly the same thing, because that's not what the world needs. What the world needs is for you to rise into yourself, going back to the energy of this quarter, and build foundations. That's where we're going now. That's a lot to take on board. You can sense this yourself. It's there, and you are constantly responding to it. But what I would like to invite you to do, and I don't normally do this in the masterclasses that I do every month, is that I am running a week-long 2020 vision event where we actually really sense into the energy and how you are going to respond to that energy and what you're going to create, how you're going to focus on your business, what you're going to focus on when. So if we end up, it'll start from a very sensed place and move into a very practical place, which is exactly what you need coming into the energy of 2020. And I will put the link in the comments below the video. Please stop walking around, dog. I will put the link in the comments below the video. So if you would like to get on the waiting list for that, more information will be coming very soon. But do ask yourself, how are you responding to the energy that you feel just generally around you? Not necessarily to do with your circumstances and situations that you're experiencing now, but just generally the energy that is around. How are you responding to it? And ask yourself how your business needs you to respond at this particular moment in time. And if you would like to join us on 2020 Vision, that would be absolutely fantastic. But I would really like to hear your comments and your thoughts on how you respond to the energies around you and how you adapt that in your business so that it is coming from deep within and coming from your centered place of self rather than an external need to push forward. See you soon. Bye.